in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. My apologies for not being able to log on. I've recently damaged my computer and I'm on another computer, so I just had some issues with getting started this morning, so my apologies for that. And I'm glad that a number of you are still here, which is fantastic. So if any of you have had to drop off or weren't sure, we will be emailing out the slides and a link to the recording of the webinar, so my apologies about the technical difficulties we had. So to kick off today, what we're going to be talking about is the social media trends that are dominating 2017 and how to use them. So I'll just move on quite quickly because I know some of you have been sitting here for a few minutes. My apologies again for that. So let's just talk about what we're going to cover today. What is social media? Let me just move this. Bear with me a second. One sec. I'm just trying to make the screen go full screen, sorry. What is social media? The state of social at the moment. I'll look back on 2016, the top 10 trends this year and key learnings really, and key recommendations about how to use social media, etc., and questions. And as usual, for people who usually join us for these webinars, essentially the questions can be asked right throughout the whole time. So let's first of all think about what is social media. Well, the pace of social media change is, really, I suppose, the biggest cliche in communications or in the industry of PR and communications. People are talking about the fast pace and keeping up with trends. We know that there's always trends. I was at a meeting yesterday where we're talking about a campaign, and we can reach out to, I was with a creative agency, an advertising agency, and one of the things they're doing are pinging people with via their IP address. If you can have access to up to 50,000 apps through IP advertising, and if you're in a particular circle, in an area, in a particular radius of a space, whether that's a football match, a shopping centre, wherever that might be, and you're actually in that app, whatever that app is, and there's 50,000 of them available to communicate, you can be pinged with a message, whatever that is, in terms of a consumer message, buying something, a campaign message, or whatever that might be. So it's interesting to see where things are going in terms of communicating in social media and marketing. Things are moving fast. While it's important to pay attention to the new tools arriving at speed, we also must regularly step back, I think, and assess the broader trends that social media points towards. That's always really important, and it's what we're going to do today. So what's the definition of social media? Well, websites and applications that enable users to create and share content or to participate in social networking. We all know that, but what's really interesting is to see where it's going at the moment. So what's the state of social? There are, let me just move this screen so I can see better. There are more than 2.5 billion active social media users around the world. This number increases by 9% each year, at least. More than 1.9 billion people access social media using their mobile phones. 83% of all marketers use social media marketing to boost sales, promote brand identity, increase social media followers, engage with prospective customers, or generate qualified leads. I was watching Four Corners last night. I don't know whether any of you caught it, but there was Mark Zuckerberg was talking about the potential for social to expand into, I think at least a third of the world's people don't have access to the internet. So there's extraordinary potential for growth which I think he obviously has his eye on, as do a lot of others. Facebook is still leading the social media platform for marketers, with 93% of businesses using the platform to communicate with their target audiences. And obviously, along with that goes, organisations, not-for-profits, government, anyone that you care to mention uses the platform. It's where the metrics are. It's where the numbers are. Simply being on social media is not enough. Social media is more than a single to-do checklist to check off your list. It's like a child. You've got to continually nurture it and pay attention to it and be wary of changes that affect it. And that's what we're going to explore today. So looking back at 2016, live video took off, with Facebook Live being used to share live streaming. I'm sure some of you may have experimented with live streaming. I certainly did. Content with friends and followers. The rise of chatbots built for customer service delivery or interaction with people who are on your website. Concierge-style services and ordering products, and much more. Disappearing or expiring content, a bit like what Snapchat uses. You're probably familiar with Snapchat. Things are ephemeral. We'll talk a little bit more about that going forward. Creating a sense of urgency for users, for example, Snapchat stories or Instagram stories. A number of other platforms are getting into this ephemeral, disappearing content. If anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to pop them in the box and I will get to them as we progress. That's probably the easiest thing to do. Mobile optimization, with Facebook and Twitter making layout and functionality changes custom made for mobile audiences. So really there's a real acknowledgement that people are fundamentally and significantly, there's significant increases in accessing the internet from a mobile device. As we know, we're not always sitting in front of a computer, and even if we're in a computer, you'll often pick up your phone and look at something else on your phone. It's a very iterative and constantly used and interacted space. Social e-commerce boomed in 2016, with major players like Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest introducing buy now buttons. And some other buttons as well, but that one was a really interesting development. Sorry, not doing well with the technology today. So what are the top trends for 2017? Well, let's just have a look at them. I think the first one is demand for authentic content via live video. A lot of people talk about being authentic. I listened to a podcast that claims to help you develop it's a sort of inspirational podcast, guy called Rich Roll in the States. His claim is that he wants to help people develop their best authentic selves. People use the word authentic a lot. And what does that mean? Well, brands, may have tried streaming on Facebook and Facebook Live, Instagram and Snapchat last year, but in 2017, this will be the year that these tools really move beyond early adopters. And people will be streaming all sorts of things, from, meetings to events to just, family gatherings, to interact with someone else on the other end who couldn't be there. I think the people will really be experimenting with it. It's authentic content, is it not? This comes on top of social media's fascination with live, authentic content, with off-the-cuff content preferred over scheduled posts, obviously. That's not to say you can't schedule posts. It's still very much a role for that. We certainly do that. And for an organisation or a company who wants to have some sort of plan and a matrix of activities with social media, then it's certainly a very easy and accessible thing to do, scheduling things in a calendar. But I think it's about saying really that we need to just not have things on autopilot. We need to make sure that we are interacting with people in a real way. So if they ask questions, respond to them. If they make a suggestion, let people know what they think, what you think. If they ask for some more information, give it to them, or give them some suggestions. It's about engaging with people. I mean, that's been true for a long time, but it's about making sure that you do that. We're seeing a trend of access, behind the walls, deeper connection to your organisation, employees, missions, and values. So that's sort of behind the scenes stuff, a bit like what helped bring the Price Waterhouse's role in the Oscars to a bit of a thudding halt on the night. It was the fellow who was taking a photo of whoever won the Best Actress award, and her name escapes me for the moment, the woman in La La Land. He was taking a photo of her and putting it on Twitter, that behind the scenes look, and he slipped up with the envelope. But we love that stuff. We love being able to see the behind the scenes, the after parties, or whatever else it is. And it's that sort of stuff that might be able to be helpful to you if you're trying to push out something to your customers or to your members or to your organization's stakeholders. Good example of this is Starbucks' live stream of its first live event in New York for National Voter Registration Day. A lot of other people used Facebook and other sorts of even Snapchat to get people to gather together during the voter registration on the run up to the US election. So social media will continue to be an interesting way of interacting with people in that live streamed way around elections in particular. So what are the key takeaways from the authentic content, the live stuff? Well, it's, taking real unfiltered moments to the next level by offering content in real time, I think is one thing that we can do. Using Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to live stream events, I think is something that we should start thinking about. Make the most of live video by hosting Q&A sessions and product demonstrations, I think is something that we can also think about doing. So where are we going to go next? Sponsored posts and paid advertising. Well, reaching users the old-fashioned way on social media. It's funny to talk about the old-fashioned way, is it not, with social media? It's an interesting expression, i.e. building up an audience over time and sharing updates simply no longer cuts it. I think I can remember a couple of years ago we were working on a campaign for a client. It was an industry body, and we started the Twitter account when we were given access to the logins about 2 weeks before the campaign went live. And the CEO of the organisation, day one of the campaign said, but we've only got 32 followers. What are we going to do? But they hadn't, up to that point, been convinced about acquisition strategies and sponsored and paid advertising. And I think it's a really, you don't necessarily have to do paid advertising, but you have to work at it really hard. I mean, we've recently launched another agency called Publicity.is, or Publicity Is, and we've built up the Instagram following to sort of close to 2,000 now. And the way we've done that is via hashtags, but we've been doing it very aggressively, going out and following people and aggressively trying to build the ground, the sort of ground of our followers. But I think just thinking that you're going to build up that audience over time, people do it. They all do it. But we're unfortunately not all Kanye West, and we don't all have access to his networks or his stage presence, or his wealth for that matter. So unfortunately, we have to adopt some other more practical ways, and I think one of the ways of doing that is thinking about advertising, sponsored posts and paid advertising. So, this reflects the reality that our feeds are more cluttered than ever with messages, photos and videos. Not everything makes it through. If you pay though to get something into someone's feed, it does permeate. You can see the metrics on that. You can see how many people were contacted, or how many feeds it appeared in, how many people clicked on it. It's a bit sort of elusive otherwise. And businesses will be forced to increase their sponsored posts and paid acquisition budgets as their algorithms reduce organic brand post visibility. And it was one of the things that the Four Corners program talked about last night, the complex algorithms. Now, I'm not a coder and I'm not a developer, but I do know that these guys are pretty clever, and they're pretty clever at moving the goalposts so that we don't ever necessarily, we might get to them, but they move them again. So they're obviously trying to be one step ahead of people so that they can maintain a source of revenue to get people to engage with their advertising. And changing algorithms about how people see content in their feeds is one of those things that these as we know, Instagram did that only recently. It used to be that the feed was in order of the it was chronological. If you had 100 people that you were following, you saw their posts organically, or not organically, chronologically. On the basis if someone posted an hour ago, you saw that, and then you saw someone who posted 59 minutes ago, and so on and so on, back to a minute ago. They changed that recently so that there is still some chronological basis to it, clearly, but it's also about the people that you're accessing. I'm not quite sure the algorithm and how that works, but it's certainly not chronological any longer. All the networks have now evolved their own native ads, promoted posts and updates that look just like the real thing. In 2017, I think it's time to start using them. We've certainly been picking up on using a lot of Facebook ads, which now can also be off the same Facebook advertising platform. You can, tick a box to have them also shared to Instagram, and it's a really good way of experimenting with it and seeing what works for you. What are the key takeaways of this? Well, don't rely on the power of organic media, social media, to drive traffic to your website. Cut through the clutter by investing in vivid visual-based ads and promoted posts, such as Facebook's boosted posts. They can be highly targeted. If people haven't explored them, go on and have a look. You can, again, I was at this meeting yesterday talking about a particular campaign with a client, and you can target it to suburbs, you can target it to types of people in those suburbs, you can target it to age groups, you can target it to, an age group in a suburb or an area who are interested in football. You can really highly target what you're doing. Now that, the more you target, the smaller your audience becomes. But quite frankly, you might want that. You really might want to, if you're, organising something for a not-for-profit about, a particular issue or a particular event, you may want to target 4 suburbs and let every single person in that area know. So it is a really good way of using things, and I'm not trying to boost Mr. Zuckerberg's earnings anymore, but it is a platform that I don't think we can ignore. So let's move on to the next one. Social messaging, I think, takes the spotlight. And for those who may have explored it, we've recently seen Facebook Messenger work in a slightly different way. It was separated out from Facebook itself some time ago, but it's recently received a number of facelifts, and you use it in a different way. WhatsApp, Viber, and WeChat are used by 4 billion users worldwide, more than the number of people on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram combined. I must admit, I actually don't use many of those myself. I use, email for my business, and most people that I communicate do. I know the Prime Minister, though, uses WhatsApp, which has been a great concern, I think, to the security forces or security people around him, and the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet. I can remember some years ago, not that long ago, when I very first started back working in the government, back in the beginning of the Rudd period in office. It was the year that the iPhone was first on the market, and federal parliamentarians were not allowed to use an iPhone for their official emails, a bit like Hillary Clinton, got it wrong with putting her private emails on the wrong phone. They weren't allowed to have iPhones. It just wasn't deemed secure, secure platform, secure device. And everyone was using Blackberries, which I used to use 20 years ago, and I find incredibly archaic, clunky, but I'm sure some people love them. Now you go in to meet politicians and you see them all on their iPhones. So I think either a desire for the object has probably overcome the paranoia around the device itself, and perhaps the naturally reticent and possibly Luddite tendencies, conservative tendencies of public servants probably have been lulled into some sort of belief that it works. These apps, though, provide a fast and easy way for customers to get the assistance that they need, rather than being placed on hold or waiting for a returned email. For example, the Hyatt internationally uses Facebook Messenger for 24-hour customer service, where guests can make reservations, ask questions, or get recommendations for their trips if they're going somewhere else after they've stayed at the hotel. A lot of people are using it in a very interactive way, a bit like Snapchat. If you've been on Snapchat, it's not just a platform anymore where people take a photo and put a funny, sort of thing over the top of it. It's where my 15-year-old son gets lots of his news. There's real news there, as opposed to fake news. News outlets are there. News Limited's on there in Australia. There's lots of news outlets on Snapchat. So it's these sorts of networks are using every option to get through to people. So what are the key takeaways in terms of social messaging? Well, one of the things we can do is use messaging apps to communicate one-on-one with customers. Obviously, we need to get them onto it, but that's one thing that we can do. Deploying messaging for customer service is more scalable and cost-effective for business. By providing a better experience for the customer, brands can solve their problems quickly and retain them a lot more easily as well. Social e-commerce. Social e-commerce isn't slowing down anytime soon, certainly not in my house. We're, I think, one of the best social e-commerce customers in Australia. With 2017 seeing more networks providing brands with easier ways to sell to customers. The Sprout Social Index discovered 57% of consumers are more likely to buy from a brand they follow on social media. Additionally, 75% have made a purchase because they saw it on social media. So what are the key takeaways there in terms of e-commerce? Well, tap into these shopping habits when thinking about your social media strategy for 2017. And people come to social media to interact with interesting content. So instead of sharing a photo of a product on Instagram with a buy now call to action, share gift ideas and product trends and encourage online shopping without necessarily asking for it as blatantly perhaps as that. Ephemeral content, which I mentioned before, will continue to find its place. Snapchat started the ephemeral or disappearing visual content sharing trends in 2016 last year, and Instagram and Facebook have now followed suit by launching similar disappearing content or video features. Let me know if you've tried it. Sorry, a couple of people jumped in with a couple of questions. Let me just go to them. Just bear with me. Sue says she's been given advice to use one form of social media and use it well. If you were to take this advice, which one would you use for maximum impact for your business? I use 3 or 4, but I would probably use either Instagram or Facebook, probably both. I think it's possible to use probably more than one. The advantage with either of those is that you can have your business details inside, quite easily, discoverable and click-throughs, etc. I think. And someone else just asked me a question, Claire. What's healthy or realistic paid acquisition budget? Social budgets can vary very greatly. So do you have a view or deem a matter of brief or purpose overall spend ratio? Look, it's a good question. A lot of people I think it's a bit like going into a lolly shop when you were with your parents and they didn't want you to spend much money. I can remember, and I don't want to tell you how much I used to be given. It wasn't very much because I was born last century. But a lot of people think, we can spend $15 and that will make a difference. Well, it probably won't. Have a look at the click-through rate and what the cost is per click. If it's working and you can do an A/B testing, which means you can test a couple of different ways of a couple of different templates, a couple of different ads when you are doing ads. But if the click-through rate is working and it's going well, then it might be down to 10 cents or 50 cents. But if it's 50 cents, you don't have to be a genius to work out you're only going to get 30 clicks for $15 a week, which isn't really very many, to be honest, because you've got to think about how many people are going to take action after they've clicked through. They might click, they might have a look, but what you actually want them to do, you want them to sign up, do something, take action, enroll, complete a form, whatever it is. You've got to then see how many people take action as a result of the click. It might only be 5%. So if your target is to get 100, then you need to have a budget that is commensurate to that. So you need to do the maths and work out how many people you need to then click through to your ads and work back from there. So most of the time, a small budget won't cut it. It really is about working out how and keeping an eye on your metrics as the ad progresses. The metrics might go up and down. The click-through, the cost per click will go up or down, or it might be that you're paying for a bid. I know when I do Google AdWords, for example, and I'm advertising PR or government engagement, then depending on the city and the location, the AdWord cost is very variable. All I know is that a lot of my competitors are spending an awful lot on Google AdWords because sometimes thousands a week. If you want to get seen in say AdWords, that's something that you obviously again have to look at the metrics. But let's jump back to the ephemeral content. So, excuse me. Snapchat started the ephemeral, as we know. Instagram and Facebook jumped onto it. The rising popularity of content will see disappearing, inspiring content continue to make use of itself this year, I think, for sure. So what's a way of using that? Ephemeral content is a great way to showcase the other side of your brand's personality with authentic, unscripted, unpolished, lighthearted content. And again, notably, it disappears. Bear in mind, however, that very clever people work out how to do screenshots of that stuff, or screen recordings. So there is really nothing that is ephemeral in terms of the internet, is my firm belief. So I think my caution here would be making sure that it might look behind the scenes, it might look like it's fun, but at the same time, it can be screenshotted or it can be recorded if some people want to pursue that. So just bear that in mind. Someone asks a question. Let me just jump to that. Rachel, for Facebook advertising, how often would you recommend changes to the ad content be made? As you said, it's running for 3 weeks. Do we change up the AdWords and image every week? Yes, look, I would. And it depends on how big the ad is and how big it's going out to. If you've got a big budget and, you've got a lot of hits, you're going to have a lot more people seeing the content. And so if it's big, then I would change it up at least every week, if not every couple of days. You can rotate those ads, but if you think about it yourself, if you see an ad, and we've all been there, we've seen an ad and then we've seen it before, and we probably aren't going to go to that ad necessarily as much as if we see something that might grab our attention that's new that we haven't seen. So think about it from your own perspective. What grabs your attention? Is it new content, or is it the same thing that you've seen for the last 12 months? It's probably the first one. So yes, I would definitely change it, and I would see as much, do as much new content and as many ads. I mean, these ads are easy to create. If you've got a bunch of images, you can create them very easily. You can do A/B testing with them to see which ones work better. You can do A/B testing with a whole lot of them. You can really vary them and mix them up, and I would recommend that. So the key to, I think, the ephemeral success is to be human. Don't be afraid to share content that's humorous or otherwise flawed in some way. One of the things we love, isn't it, seeing, maybe I'm just strange, but I like seeing behind the scenes content of normal people, looking, doing stuff, not in a sort of obsessive way, but sort of nice to see some celebrities without makeup on, or, drinking a coffee in a ragged pair of jeans and an old t-shirt. I don't spend a lot of time on that stuff, but occasionally when I do see it, it's sort of interesting. So I think, again, seeing people warts and all is sort of good as well. But again, be very, very cautious. People can always grab it, and so if you don't want it to be seen or observed against your brand or against your organisation, make sure that you don't do it. And I'm sounding like I'm a headmaster or headmistress here, and I'm sorry to sound like that, but it is very much it's very much something you need to keep in mind. Content ideas for ephemeral stories include how-to videos, behind-the-scenes looks, contests and giveaways, recipes, interviews, live events, announcements and product reveals. I think I might have mentioned on last month's webinar, we're organising one of these things, the live 50 Acres Academy, which we're going to roll out around the country soon, and we'll probably stream them on Facebook Live or Instagram, or both. And it was strange, the webinar before last, I think, or maybe, the webinar before last, I did stream it on both. And you know what? Some of the people that were listening logged in and watched it on that too, and it wasn't that exciting, but people do it. And so I think people want to sort of, see you sitting there doing stuff or whatever you're doing or chatting. I mean, it can be as boring as that through to something much more exciting. So, it can be a behind the scenes look at how you're creating a campaign, how you're organising something. And it doesn't need to go for long, but, have a think about how you might use some of this stuff that then could disappear, or, you can reshare it in another way going forward. Social media catches up with search for discovery. Social media is rapidly growing as a discovery and research tool for consumers to find products and buy from brands. With 98% of digital consumers using social networks, these platforms have become the preferred space where people go to find information. So if you think about it, I'll often use Google Shopping tag to try and find something. But I also will look in Instagram or in Facebook to try and locate that item, or in Amazon or wherever it is that I might be going. I'm not sure whether any of you have done that, but it works, and I think there's a lot of different ways that we can now locate things, whether that's be an organisation, an event, a product, whatever that is, information. Social networks themselves, social media, is able to use. You don't just have to use Google. Consumers are now going straight to social media to talk to friends, research products, find brands, and obviously make purchases. There's a lot of stuff that's interacting. You can buy straight from Instagram or straight from Facebook. There's lots of Facebook forums now, and in fact, a lot of people are selling on Facebook groups. In preference to eBay. It's less complicated. You don't have to sort of sign up for a complicated thing. It's just a lot less onerous, and so it's a really interesting development. Someone's just asked me a question. Let me just go to that. For social media searching, it's important. Is it important to include hashtags in Facebook, for example, to assist with people finding you? Look, I think so. I mean, if people are in front of the internet now, go to Instagram and have a look at publicity.is. Just look up publicity is and go to our Instagram feed. We've got 30, I think you can use up to 30 something hashtags in Instagram. we vary them and sort of mix them up a bit. We use ones that are popular through to ones that are sort of picking up on what's happening. And so, yeah, I think so, particularly for an event. If you're an event for a couple of days or a conference, then I think hashtags are really important. But I do think that it's hashtags can certainly be beneficial for finding stuff and searching it up, particularly if you can lay claim to a particular hashtag and ownership of it. Then I think that's really helpful as well. So takeaways there, know your audience. Just because the trend is shifting towards social media doesn't mean that you should abandon your SEO and search friendly audience, such as the older demographic. You need to think about where your tribe are, the people that you want to be talking to you. That could be everyone. It could be elderly people over 60. It might be people under 18. It might be, mums between the ages of 18 and 45. They could be in dispersed locations. They could be relying on Google searches. They could be relying on using Instagram or Facebook or a myriad combination of all those things. So it's about making sure you understand your audience before you make these important decisions. If you don't understand your audience, then try and interact with them and ask them what they do and what they use. When you're having conversations with them on social media, say to them, what do you use? What do you rely on? How do you prefer to interact with us? Send them a SurveyMonkey via email, a variety of ways just to get to know your stakeholders, your network. Focus on credibility on your social media channels and be ready for the growing audience that's seeking out your brand, obviously, in this space. So what's the next one? Number 7, video ignites social advertising. In 2017, I think social video advertising will be a key strategic focus for brands. According to the Future of Digital Video by Trusted Media Brands Incorporated, or Inc., 65% of marketers prioritize social video platforms such as Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter over traditional web video platforms like YouTube and Vivo or Vimeo. So it's really interesting, isn't it? Facebook continues to dominate on the video front with 100 million hours of content viewed per day. That's a lot of video, and it explains a lot why my Wi-Fi bill is so high, I think, in terms of my 2 children. But the platform is increasingly moving towards the silent video trend, with 85% of all videos viewed without sound. So what does that mean just in itself? It means that the video needs to be visually enticing, it needs to be informative, use of some very clear infographics. It needs to be able to be seen on that small screen because not everyone opens up the screen. And in fact, most people use the screen in portrait. That's been well known for a while, rather than turning it onto a landscape screen. So you need to be across all these things when you are developing video content and be across these trends because, if you're just putting, I'm not saying that you don't put stuff on YouTube or Vimeo or Vivo. Of course you can. This webinar is going to be there later today. But one of the things that we also need to think about is how people are actually accessing your material. Are they looking at it through Facebook, or are half of them going to YouTube or other places? Who is it that are using those different platforms? I think it would be really useful for you to know that. So key takeaways there are: experiment with short and visually engaging clips. Create videos to suit the functionalities of the specific social media platforms. And as I said, for example, most people aren't turning their phones horizontally to landscape to watch a video. They're not making a large screen. They're using them in portrait and not opening them. They're just going straight from the phone, which is one of the reasons why people are watching them on silent. And cut through the clutter by optimizing video for viewing without sound. Artificial intelligence and chatbots are going to go mainstream. And, some people, AI is just a whole new world. And it is. Artificial intelligence is now reaching a level where it is useful to many people's daily lives. The rise of digital assistants such as Siri, Cortana, and Google Assistant, who've got people used to talking to their phone rather than exercising their fingers. There's also, I've been approached and have experimented with some of these online PAs where they jump in and just see that you're wanting to set up a meeting and try and set up a meeting. I haven't found them useful for myself so far, but I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are. Just probably because my diary is pretty complicated and I've got, 25, 30 clients and, half a dozen staff and, it's complex, and that sort of matrix of complexity is in my head and probably not in an AI assistant, but we might go there one day. And there are some really interesting AI meeting apps in terms of, where you can send someone a link. They can create their own meeting with you, rather than you having to do it. You give them options of when they're available, and they book their own time with you. With Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, and Google Allo all introducing integrated bots to help with bookings and customer service, the trend towards conversational commerce will only accelerate in 2017. So I think that's something, if you are a business or a corporate, I think really getting across that would be really helpful. So key takeaways there. Perhaps the easiest and the most popular way to use a chatbot for your small business is to answer basic customer questions and manage simple bookings. So give that a go. There's chatbots, platforms that you can use in your website. They're easily downloadable and implemented. A chatbot loaded with FAQs is often very effective at providing sufficient answers to customer queries, especially in fields that use a lot of specific jargon. Use a chatbot to weed out basic customer questions from the pack before directing customers to a live representative. So 9, with micro-social influencers are obviously coming into the limelight, with an astounding 47% of online consumers using ad blockers. The decline in traditional TV viewership and the steady rise of social media, it's evident that the old techniques of advertising are no longer effective to break the online content clutter. Influencer marketing exploded last year, with more brands turning to digital creators to reach new audiences, younger customers, and to build buzz around their products. It shows no signs of slowing down. In 2017, I think we'll see marketers tapping into the power of influencers to create authentic content, there's that word again, for their brand to acquire new customers and establish a trust to their audience. So what are the key takeouts there? Sorry. High budget celebrity endorsements are out, which is a good thing, isn't it? If we didn't have any high budget celebrities engaged with our campaigns, they cost a lot of money and they're hard to find. Instead, brands are finding better returns by featuring real people, actually people like us who have smaller followings but fit the brand's niche. We recently worked on a launch of something in Canberra, and one of the things we did was identify some influencers in the age bracket of the stakeholders, the target group that we were trying to target. So we reached out to them and got them to do call outs in an agreed, organised way through their networks, because some of them have 2,000-3,000, but that's 2,000 or 3,000 that the client or you don't have, that you could perhaps reach out to someone with. For example, Melbourne-based model and fitness guru Stephanie Claire Smith works with brands including Adidas and Clinique, reflecting her rapport with the company's young target markets. There's a lot of other people you may want to use as well that might be relevant. Sports people are often looking for a way of getting into this stuff before they start charging the big bucks, and people who are sort of, lower down in the pecking order, but actually real people, don't charge very much money or nothing. If they really do believe in what you're doing, if you're not for profit, for example, it's a lot easier to engage people. Now, number 10, the last one, immersive social experiences will become the norm. The year of video has come and gone, and pure video alone is now not even enough for people. They want more. As the race for attention intensifies, the need to provide social experiences that grab an audience is really now at its peak. Virtual reality will encourage engagement by offering an immersive, memorable experience, unlike any other mediums. I don't know whether any of you have tried virtual reality, VR or AR. It's a really interesting platform and way of using things. We've recently been working with some builders, developers here in Canberra, and they use some VR glasses which, did all sorts of stuff. They had smells going and wind and all sorts of stuff associated with what it was like to be on the veranda of this building, which was coincidentally a very high building in Canberra. For example, Tom's, a shoe business, uses virtual reality to shed light on its pledge to match each pair of shoes purchased with a new pair for a child in need around the world. Go and have a look on their website. There's also VR. You can get VR goggles very easily and cheaply. There are cardboard ones. You can get stuff. There are apps that you can use to see this stuff. You can do it through your online website. It doesn't have to be completely and utterly a huge budget. Now let me just move on to the takeouts there. So the key takeaways there is making the most of the rise of formats such as Facebook Canvas, live 360 video and stories to create authentic opportunities to engage audiences. And if you're not familiar with those mediums, do a Google search and have a look at them. I think it's well worth you getting across what those are. Today's consumers are all about the immersive experience. That means virtual reality, augmented reality, micro moments, videos, imagery, and more. Research these experiences. Look up. If you don't know what those mean, look them up. Look up what virtual reality is. Look up the difference. I did a few months ago a webinar on the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality. You can look it up if you're interested. But if it's something that you're not familiar with, look these things up because it's well worth your time getting across them. Again, stuff's moving and it's accessible. When I was speaking with these advertisers in this meeting yesterday, there's a heck of a lot of stuff that's really accessible now. And when Twitter and Instagram first went on the market for ads, they were phenomenally expensive, and now they're incredibly readily accessible. So all of this stuff is moving. The cost is moving south, and as a consequence, we're able to get involved with it. So thanks so much for taking part in this webinar. My apologies again that we got off to a late start due to the fact that I was getting my computer repaired. So my apologies to all of you. If you missed part of this, it will be on our website, our YouTube channel, 50 Acres TV, later today. And we'll also send you out a link to that and also a link to these slides so that you have them. Next month, we're going to look at the concept of attention. It's been an interesting topic at a couple of things that I've listened to and got across in the last couple of weeks. I was at the Mumbrella conference in Sydney just recently, and there was a really great presentation about attention. And really, I suppose the logic there was people, how are we capturing people's attention and keeping their attention when traditional advertising like TV, radio, and print are really diminishing? Where are people going? Where are they? Where is their attention, and how do we keep it? Obviously, it's going to social, it's going to blogs, it's going online, but it's also going to these other things that we've talked about today. But it's more about a strategic approach of how you keep them engaged with what you're doing, and how can we get people to focus in terms of what we're doing to stand out. So that's what's going to be on next month. I will send everyone a invitation to that in the coming days. And thanks again for joining us today for the webinar. If anyone's got a question, thanks Rachel for your feedback. No problem at all, and my apologies that I was late. I didn't even get to have a coffee. I haven't had one yet. It's 12 o'clock, so I'm going to have to go and remedy that right now. So thanks so much. I'm really pleased that you could join us, and I think next month's will be interesting. It's a really interesting topic, this concept of attention. So I think it's something that we've got to grapple with, not just philosophically, but in reality, actually how we're going to get people to focus when we've got multiple screens open, we're multitasking, we want them to do something, but how do we actually grab them and keep them? And that's what we'll be dealing with next month. So thanks so much. Thanks, Sue, for your feedback, and have a great day, everyone. Thanks again.